Hello dear students, this is your English teacher Qaisar Bashir. Dear students, in the previous video, we did the reading of the poem After Apple Picking, written by Robert Frost. Dear students, in this video, we are going to discuss the poem in detail. Let's get started. About the poet. Robert Frost was an American poet who was born in 1874 and died in 1963. He is known for his realistic depictions of rural life and his command of American colloquial speech. He frequently wrote about settings from rural life in New England in the early 20th century, using them to examine complex social and philosophical themes. Dear students, Robert Frost is the only poet to receive 4 Pulitzer Prizes for poetry. Mending Wall, Stopping by Woods, Birch, The Road Not Taken, and After Apple Picking are his major poems. About the poem. Dear students, After Apple Picking, written by American poet Robert Frost, was published in his second poetry collection entitled North of Boston. The poem describes a pastoral scene of New England life in autumn. Dear students, New England is a region comprising 6 states in the northeastern United States. The speaker of the poem is recalling his days spent picking apples on a ladder as he falls asleep. His thoughts about labor, fruit, tiredness, and coming of sleep are actually musings on life and death. Summary and explanation of the poem. Dear students, as we start reading the poem, we are taken straight to a garden where we see a ladder sticking through a tree. However, as the poem progresses, feelings of suspension and resignation start to dominate. The speaker knows that there are some apples left and that the barrel isn't full, but his attitude is, to hell with those apples, I have had enough. Dear students, the apple itself is strongly associated with the Garden of Eden, Eve and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But this poem only gives a shake of the head to the idea that God is involved in this harvest. The speaker is far too wrapped up in the material details of apple picking to have any thoughts about a deity. He is on the verge of a strange winter sleep. He has already seen the world in a different light by looking through ice he took from a drinking trough, which distorted his world view. But he consciously shattered that world, which led him to the thoughts about dreaming and the shape of his future. Dear students, time starts to blur as the speaker slowly sinks into uneasy sleep. He doesn't count sheep to help him drift off. He thinks back to the 10,000 apples he has held, their fragrance, weight, and form. They loom large in his mind. Dear students, the speaker of the poem could be entering an Alice in Wonderland kind of dreamland. But here is no white rabbit, only a woodchuck about to hibernate. The woodchuck's sleep will be untroubled. The speaker is potentially full of humanness. Or, in the final act of harvest, the speaker will sleep the immortal sleep, reaping what he has sown, a simple creative life underpinned by symbol and metaphor, a profound approach to the art of getting lost. Remember, dear students, the beautiful aspect of the poem is that the speaker drifts from one topic to another without maintaining a sequence, as if he was actually dreaming. And this aspect of the poem compels the reader to remain alert and awake to the sudden shifts. Dear students, let's now talk about themes. The poem After Apple Picking is a multi-thematic poem. Every image used and object mentioned in the poem is actually a symbol, reflecting and symbolizing different things and ideas. The tree, for example, symbolizes life. Ladder, states of life, and sleep symbolizes death. So we can say the underlying theme of the poem is life and death, which is depicted by the objects mentioned in the poem. The students, the voice in the poem is of a human approaching death. The speaker of the poem recalls his life's labors, opportunities, hits and misses, fears, impending death and afterlife. He has picked many apples. That is, he has availed many opportunities in life and has made best use of them. However, he regrets not having filled the empty barrel. That is, he has not been able to materialize all his dreams. He has missed several chances, which we understand by the apples that struck the earth and went to the cider heap. The students, satiation and wisdom are also themes in the poem. The narrator says the ladder of opportunity is still available, but he cannot pick apples now because he is content, as is reflected by the line, "I am done with apple picking now." Dear students, the poem also talks about the transience of life. The theme of the shortness of life is conveyed through the use of the image, pane of glass, picked in the morning, representing the beginning of life, is already melting, falls and breaks, and this falls and breaks signifies death. Dear students, death and afterlife also features as a theme in the poem. Afterlife has been described as a kind of dreaming in which the missed chances. Here, the apples that struck the earth and went to the cider apple heap are going to haunt the speaker. The poem mystifies death as the narrator is not sure whether it will follow a new state soon, like ordinary human sleep, or a long interval like the woodchuck's prolonged hibernation. Let's now talk about symbolism. What is a symbol? Dear students, a symbol is a visual image or sign representing an idea. It's a deeper indicator of universal truth. The poem, After Apple Picking, is copious with symbols. Each symbol represents a significant idea and wisdom. For instance, the tree in the poem represents life. The ladder symbolizes the states of life. The apples symbolize opportunities to do good deeds. The barrel symbolizes the record or account of the deeds. Winter and sleep symbolizes death. Dream symbolizes afterlife. Swaying represents fears and apprehensions one experiences throughout life. The instep ache stands for the pain one goes through in making life worthy of a harvest. Dear students, let's now talk about imagery. What is imagery? Dear students, imagery is the use of descriptive language in a poem. The poem After Apple Picking is full of images drawn from rural life. Following are the images that the poet has used in the poem. Number 1, the tree. Number 2, the barrel. Number 3, the truck. Number 4, hoary grass. Number 5, fleck of russet. Number 6, cider apple heap. Dear students, these are the examples of visual imagery. Number 7, the rumbling sound. Number 8, of load on load of apples. Dear students, these are the examples of auditory images. Number 9, the scent of apples. Dear students, this is an example of olfactory imagery. Rhyme scheme. Dear students, after apple picking does not follow a set rhyming pattern. Sometimes a rhyme occurs at every other line, sometimes at every fourth line, and sometimes in consecutive lines. Lines 28 and 29, for instance, take the readers by surprise with an abrupt rhyming couplet. Of apple picking I am overtired, of the great harvest I myself desired. Let's now talk about point of view. Dear students, the poem is narrated from the first person point of view. This is evident by the use of first person pronoun I by the poet in the poem. Tone of the poem. Dear students, the poem has a happy tone because the narrator is satisfied with the harvest of life and welcomes death. However, at times the tone shifts to regretfulness and also becomes reflective when death and afterlife are discussed. Alliteration. Dear students, alliteration is the repetition of initial consonant sounds. There are few obvious examples of this in the poem After Apple Picking. However, there are several short examples. For example, the lines, "No matter if not bruised or spiked with stubble, went surely to the cider apple heap." We have the repetition of an initial sound "sir" with the words spiked, stubble, surely, and cider. In the line, "I feel the ladder sway as the boughs bend." Boughs bend is an example of alliteration. Personification. Dear students, personification is the attribution of human characteristics and feelings to non-human things. For example, in the poem, the woodchuck could say, attributes an ability to speak to the woodland creatures. So this is an example of personification in the poem. Hyperbole. Dear students, hyperbole is a figure of speech in which an author or speaker purposely and obviously exaggerates to an extreme. It's used for emphasis or as a way of making a description more creative and humorous. It's important to note that hyperbole is not meant to be taken literally. The audience knows it's an exaggeration. Dear students, the obvious example of hyperbole in the poem is the line, "There were 10,000 fruit to touch." Remember, dear students, this line is also an example of alliteration because there is rhythmic repetition of the consonant sound t and th. Dear students, before I conclude, I would like to tell you that this is not enough that we have discussed about the poem. The poem is so deep, so philosophical and so meaningful that the more you delve in it, the more meanings, the more themes surface. So if you want to know more about the poem, feel free to phone me and we will have more discussion on the poem. Dear students, I'll be back soon with another video. Till then, stay blessed. Khuda Hafiz.